This is Game Night with Josh Hennig.
Let's go!
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Let's go!
Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Josh Hennig.
Eagles, Jags this Sunday. We know who will be playing and who will not. We'll have all the details for you coming up here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. Josh Hennig hanging out with you. It's a football Friday, so the football picks are coming up a little bit later in the hour. And Andy McNamara will join us coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. And as always, you guys can join the conversation. 609-403-0973 in your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. All right. So we got to get you the keys to the game this Sunday. We got to get you all the information you need about the game, as well as the injury report. I will break down all the information. I wrote about it at 97.3ESPN.com a little bit earlier, so I'll get to all that in just a bit. But I think initially, the more and more research I have done, the more I've heard people talking about this game, the more I understand that this game is not about winning or losing. It's about doing your job. I was listening to a couple different players this week on different shows, right? I was listening to Chris Long on the Green Light Podcast. I was listening to Luke Kuechly on the Up and Adams show on FanDuel TV. I was listening to a lot of different players make this comment this week. And the comment they all kept making was, when you go into a game that you know you should win, it's about the players focusing in, doing their job, and not losing sight of the job at hand. And I think that is really the number one key for the Eagles, because I was listening to what Lane Johnson said earlier, and I was kind of matching the tone and the vibe of Lane with what I've heard all of these former players talking about. Those didn't hear. So Lane Johnson spoke to the media at his locker today, and he made some fascinating comments that are being reported throughout social media. And I wanted to bring them to you guys here on 97.3 ESPN, because I've noticed some of what he said has been mischaracterized. It has not been properly attributed or quoted properly, okay? So the question was asked to Lane Johnson about, hey, you guys ran the ball a lot last week. You're running the ball more since the bye week. And there's all kinds of numbers out there. Nick Sirianni, his teams are 14-1 when they run the ball more than they pass. That the Eagles' run-pass ratio has flipped almost completely the other direction. So Lane Johnson was asked about that, and this is what he said. This is the context of what he told the media.
We had some discussions there, during the bye week and coming back. What was our identity? And we haven't established that. So, if I had to compare it to anything, I would compare it to maybe 2021 when we played Detroit, and we had a similar kind of offensive attack the first few weeks when we played Detroit and ran lots of run plays, lots of play actions, and it worked out really well for us. So I feel like it's more of the same formula.
So two things I took away from that. Number one, he said, during the bye week, we got together, we talked about what we needed to do. We needed to find our identity, he said. And we said, hey, we need to go back to what we did in Detroit in 2021. So it's not the Eagles scrapped the offense and started running the 2021 offense, okay? That's kind of what's been characterized on social media. What Lane is explaining there, he said, look, we had a conversation during the bye week about what we need to do, about who we are, about how we need to approach this. And so as a result, they turned around and they believe that, look, we have this running back. So if we are going to seriously keep making this run coming out of the bye week, we got to give him the ball. Lane Johnson went on to be asked about, hey, was this change, was this adjustment, was this spearheaded by the players, or was this spearheaded by the coaching staff, Lane Johnson's answer.
An offensive-led movement. I mean, we knew we had to make some adjustments. Some of the guys, some of the leaders, veterans on the O-line, we had our fair share of talks and helping it. So we just want the offense to be the best version of itself and win some games and hopefully, score some points in the first quarter.
I love the part at the end there because he just subtly just drops in a little cuss word. But he's right. It's twofold for the Eagles. It's number one, the players said, look, we got to be better. We all got to be better. We got to go out there and put a better brand of football on the field consistently. And number two, he said, we got to figure out these slow starts to games. And I like the fact, I like the fact the Eagles are acknowledging that the slow starts are a problem. They are acknowledging that the first quarter issues throughout the year have been an issue. Now, look, in theory, if the Bengals didn't hold the ball for 10 minutes, well, at least felt like 10 minutes of the first quarter, then maybe you score those points in the first quarter and you break that streak. But it's great to hear the players acknowledging, hey, we had to make adjustments. We had to get better. We have to do more. And I think because the Eagles players are taking this game seriously, they are not looking ahead to Dallas. There's nobody in that locker room who is trying to overthink anything. When you take a game seriously, when you proceed with the attitude that, hey, we are going to keep getting better every week. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. I think that's the right attitude. I think key number one is the Eagles have to take this game seriously, and they obviously are. Now, I mentioned the injury report. I wrote about it at 973ESPN.com. It's also on the 973 ESPN mobile app. If you have your app alert set up, you would have gotten the alert a little bit earlier. So the injury report is interesting because the two players who were ruled out, one of them is not surprising because if you would have been listening to 973 ESPN throughout the week, if you would have heard my interview with former Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Dave Klemic yesterday, we talked about how the Goddard hamstring issue, that is an injury that takes time. It doesn't matter what the severity of it because there are different severities to it. There are different types of injuries when it comes to the hamstring. The Goddard not playing after he had already not practiced all week, that was not surprising. Now, medical experts say that hamstrings usually take 4 to 6 weeks for a recovery. And we know that A.J. Brown, who strained his hamstring before the Falcons game, well, he missed 3 games and then returned from the bye week. That's a 4-week recovery time. He actually didn't even practice for over 2 weeks. It was almost 3 full weeks he didn't practice. So Goddard missing the game this Sunday is not surprising, and frankly, they should be able to win without him. The interesting injury, to me at least, is Darius Big Play Slay. Because Slay is a guy who came into this year kind of looking for a bit of a redemption, looking for a bit of a bounce back. And he has now dealt with multiple injuries this year. Remember, he got banged up in the Saints game. He got banged up in the game this past weekend with the Bengals. And he also got banged up in the Giants game. He has dealt with multiple issues this year. So, is it because he's getting older? Is it because he's just unlucky? Whatever the reason is, if this was 2018 Eagles, I'd be way more concerned about Slay missing this game. But the good news is, one, they have a more than competent backup in Isaiah Rodgers. And Rodgers was a key player in getting that C.J. Gardner-Johnson interception against the Bengals last Sunday. And Rodgers got a ton of reps with the first team defense at training camp. So he knows the defense. He's very well experienced. He's a veteran player. And going against a Jags team that Christian Kirk is done for the year. He's got a broken collarbone. And two of their wide receivers are both questionable for the game. This is the game you let Slay rest. You need Slay more for the Dallas Cowboys game in 2 weeks than you need him for this Sunday. Because with no Christian Kirk, and then Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas Jr. are both questionable, managing through injuries right now, I think the Eagles will be fine without Slay. So this kind of feels like a bit of a calculated move by them. Of course, the Jags are a defense that's also allowing 28 points per game. And what have the Eagles averaged since the bye week? 28 points per game. By the way, the Jags also have listed both of their running backs, Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne, as questionable as well. They are both limited at practice, so there's a chance that one of them might not play on Sunday either. They will also have ruled out their starting left guard, Ezra Cleveland. So you're without one of your best receivers. You're without your left guard. Your defense is not playing well. This is a game the Eagles will win. It's just a question of how much they win it by, and do they put their pedal to the metal and end this game early. You know, it's kind of like the back in the day, the video game Mortal Kombat, where they like, finish him, you know, that whole factor. Will the Eagles finish Jacksonville, or will they let them hang around and give Eagle fans unnecessary anxiety and agita? Merrill Reese, Mike Quick call the action here on your home for Eagles football in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 3, and Merrill and Mike call the action starting at 4 p.m. here on 97.3 ESPN FM. I'll get your guys' picks for the Eagles game and your thoughts at 609-403-0973 a little bit later this hour. But coming up next, Andy McNamara joins us for more NFL talk here on a Football Friday with me, Josh Hennig, live in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey for three, outside left, bullseye. He puts it in. A crossover dribble on McBride, and he pours in a triple.
It's Sixers Grizzlies tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 7:30. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball. 97.3 ESPN.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Sea Isle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC. Equal housing lender.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
A clue.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent.
Aha.
So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle. Tide cleans better than the leading competitive free detergent, and it doesn't leave behind irritating residues.
Plus, Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
Case closed.
If it's got to be clean, it's got to be Tide Free and Gentle.
I feel like I'm constantly cleaning hair off my bathroom floor. At least my Swiffer sweeper makes it easy. Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths have ultra-thick pads to trap and lock hairs, like a hair magnet. And when I'm finished cleaning up my hair, Sweeper takes care of his too. Now the hair's gone, all thanks to Swiffer. Try Swiffer Sweeper heavy-duty dry cloths. I promise you'll love them or your money back. And also try Swiffer Sweeper Wet to make quick work of tough, sticky messes.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Ah, sounds like wipers. If your wipers are streaking, skipping, chattering, or even worse, loud, you need to visit AutoZone and get some fresh new blades. We've got basic wipers to get you back on the road, as well as premium blades from Bosch and Rain-X. So if you're hearing this, just head to your nearest AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Hey, if you have ugly, yellow toe fungus, you got to hear about the secret 2-minute trick that I found for my husband. It works from both the inside and the outside. Thousands of people are using it to get rid of their toe fungus. You can check it out at crystalflesh.com. Jake started off with a small spot on his big toe, and then it spread and got really bad. His toes were nasty. It was so embarrassing. He was afraid to take his socks off. He hid his yellow and crumbly toes from everyone. He tried everything to get rid of it. Nothing helped. And then we found crystalflesh.com. It was the only thing that worked. In just a few weeks, his toes looked amazing. He's now walking around barefoot again. You guys need to try this. I'm telling you, this stuff is different. It's not sold in stores, but go check it out at crystalflesh.com. They'll even let you try it risk-free, so you have nothing to lose. But whatever you do, don't let it get worse. You don't have to live with this anymore. Go check it out now. Just click over to crystalflesh.com.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. The Sixers hosting the Memphis Grizzlies on Saturday night. Catch the action right here on 97.3 ESPN at 7:30. Pistons coming off a loss Wednesday to Detroit. Center Joel Embiid has been working through scrimmages. The team will make a decision on his playing status for Saturday's game. NHL, the Flyers host the Boston Bruins on Saturday afternoon. Catch that on our sister station, Rock 104, starting at 1. The Flyers are coming off back-to-back wins, which includes a victory against Boston Tuesday. Thursday night, they beat St. Louis 2-1. Bobby Brink with a goal late in the third period. The Eagles and Jaguars will play Sunday at the Link. Philadelphia riding a 3-game win streak, sitting at 5-2. It's also the return of former Eagles head coach Doug Peterson for the second time since parting ways with Philadelphia's Jaguars squad at 2-6, and will be without leading receiver Christian Kirk. 97.3 ESPN has Eagles Jaguars on Sunday starting at 3. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
New Jersey, this is Lieutenant Governor Tahisha Way. Vote in person on Election Day, Tuesday, November 5th, or early in person starting Saturday, October 26th, or vote by mail. Details at vote.nj.gov.
Good afternoon. With your South Jersey weather forecast, I'm Joe Kelly. Weather-wise, we've had a pretty nice Friday. We're going to see cool temperatures tonight, though. Might have to turn the heater on. Clear sky tonight, low 45. Tomorrow looks pretty good, partly sunny with a high of 64. Much of the same expected for Sunday, partly sunny with a high of 62. As of right now, the weather for your back-to-work Monday, partly sunny with a high of 66. That's your South Jersey weather forecast. Have a great weekend. I'm Joe Kelly.
Life can be tough, and sometimes it's hard to find someone who will listen. But we want you to know there's always someone you can turn to, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is completely confidential and here for you 24/7 every day of the year. You don't have to struggle alone. Call 988 and let us help. We're here ready to listen because your life matters. Call or text 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org/chat. A message from New Jersey Human Services.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
As promised, joining us here is Andy McNamara in just a moment, but don't forget Game Night being brought to you by Boxing Insider Promotions, event of the fall season. An action-packed card at Tropicana Showroom in Atlantic City with not one, not two, but 3 undefeated South Jersey fighters on tap. Of course, we're talking about Atlantic City's Justin Figueroa, Absegami High School's Bruce Selden Jr., and Pleasantville's Francisco Cisco Kid Rodriguez, all undefeated, all in different weight classes, and all in action, along with some of the best top up-and-coming fighters in the boxing world. That is Saturday, November 16th. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com and be at Tropicana Showroom in Atlantic City because you do not want to miss this jam-packed night of boxing. That is Saturday, November 16th. Tropicana Showroom in Atlantic City. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. But it is a Football Friday, and Andy McNamara is back with us here on 97.3 ESPN. Well, you know, Andy, boxing, football, they're all contact sports, right?
Right. Yeah, they're all hits to the head and all that. I used to love boxing. Oh my gosh. If I was in the area, I would definitely go to that. I used to get like Ring Magazine back in the day, Tyson Holyfield. Sure. And I gotta say this. The best boxing video game for my money was the Legends game which came after Evander Holyfield's Real Deal set for Sega Genesis. You could play as Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, Jack Dempsey. It was phenomenal. It was such a great game.
There was a version of that on PlayStation years later where you could play as the older boxers. It wasn't called Legends. It was like, EA Sports Boxing something or another. I just remember playing it when I was in high school. So
Right.
I knew it was that, like, there was that era from like 97 to like 2007 where video games had, like, they made enough progress for you to believe it was believable, but they hadn't made enough progress for you to need to be like an addict to actually play the game.
Yeah. It was like, well, at the time it was real. I remember I like the memes online, like for the wrestling games, like No Mercy for N64. And it's like, these graphics cannot get any more real. It's like The Rock and Stone Cold with square heads. And at the time, you're like, this is incredible. And now it's, of course, ridiculous. But it's a long way from Pong, the previous generation would have thought was good, right?
Donkey Kong on Atari.
Oh, love Donkey. Boxing Kangaroo. How about that for a lost gem? Any listeners remember Boxing Kangaroo? Nice late 80s video game.
I was going to go more Food Fight on Atari. So.
Oh, sure. River Raid. Pitfall. Love Pitfall.
We're really showing our age now, aren't we?
Yes. Stick figures. Wow. The joysticks had the joystick and one button. That's all you needed.
Andy,
hours of fun.
The one game on Atari, and I'll just say this before we get to the football. So you would hold it in your one hand. So let's say it was your right hand.
Yeah.
The stick was on the top. The buttons were on your right hand. But if you wanted to play the racing game, you had to hold the right button in order for the pedal, because if you weren't a rich kid, you couldn't get the accessory unit where you got like the driving and the pedal and everything.
Oh, of course not. No.
In order for you to hold the gas, so the gas was the right button in your hand, and on the other side of your hand was the brake. So your thumb would be the gas, your pointer finger would be the brake. Well, of course you're not using the brake that much if you're racing. So I'm like, what was I, like 5 years old? And I'm like, every time I'm playing the game, my thumb hurts because I'm holding it so tightly.
Early carpal tunnel. That's right. Destroying joints, but it was worth it. Damn it. And then Nintendo came along and off we go.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Speaking of video games, I mentioned it earlier, Andy, because Mortal Kombat. Remember back in the day, it'd be like, at the end, it'd be like, finish him,
You know what, though? Remember, for Sega, you could have blood. Super Nintendo only sweat because they were wimps.
Correct.
So we had the Sega one, and you could get blood and all the crazy finishes. Nintendo, they wimped out, and they just did sweat and not the cool finisher where you rip the guy's like skeleton out or something.
Yeah, that's why I had Nintendo as a kid. My parents my parents censored it for me.
Oh, I see.
They were trying to protect me, but it didn't matter because now I'm an adult and I'm watching John Wick movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, so but my point is that, I mentioned the Mortal Kombat, a big finish him, because to me, one of the keys for the Eagles this Sunday is we know they're going to beat the Jags, okay? Mm-hmm. Christian Kirk's done for the year. Ezra Cleveland, their left guard, has been ruled out for the game. Their other two receivers, Davis and Thomas, they're both questionable. Both running backs, Bigsby and Etienne, are questionable. I mean, the Jags are just an absolute mess. They're 2-6. They have a poor defense. So you know the Eagles are going to win. But the key in a game like this, Andy, to me, you got to finish early. You got to put your foot on the gas pedal.
Right.
And just run away from the game. Don't make it interesting. Don't give them hope.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. A team that's down and out, you don't want to give them any hope because, we see all the time, you get that little glimmer, then you get the motivation. See, we're down and look at us. And then before you know it, it comes down to a field goal and then who knows what can happen. Right. I agree. You got to just start hot, put them away, go up by a couple touchdowns, and then run the ball the rest of the way. Fantasy football wise, maybe if you're desperate, a little DeErnest Johnson, huh? We're dusting off a little DeErnest Johnson for the Jags, former Cleveland Brown. Used to be. I interviewed him once. Josh. He was a fisherman for 6 months. He was out of football, then went to the XFL and then to the NFL. Great guy. Maybe not so great in fantasy. I don't know. But there you go.
Fisherman?
He was on a fishing boat he was from Florida, had to work on a fishing boat to support his family because he was out of football for 6 months and came back. I love that guy. That guy, that is the epitome of grinding. You worked literally on a fishing boat and then back in football, and he's made a little bit of money. So, yeah. But DeErnest Johnson, third stringer of the Jags. How about that?
Yeah, I'll try to find somebody else. To
Yeah.
play.
You'll ease away from the fisherman, Dearness Johnson. Yes.
Yeah. But on a serious note with fantasy, when you look at the game, we know that A.J. Brown is the Eagles' number one.
Yeah.
But is there any concern that they get out to a lead and that guys like Johnson and Smith and even Saquon, they might not hit their full point potential because it'll be like halfway through the third quarter and it's like 30-10.
And then you're lighting up some Kenneth Gainwell, is what you're saying, right? No, absolutely. And here's the tricky part.
Or Will Shipley in this case.
Oof, little Will Shipley. Yeah. Here's the thing, though. If you get to the lead, who's getting the points? Because if you're a Saquon owner or a Devonta Smith owner or A.J. Brown and it's up and they're up 21-3 and each of them has a touchdown, okay, probably decent day with the receptions if it's PPR. But you're right. If one of them doesn't, then you're not going to need the heavy volume like let's say you needed against the Cincinnati Bengals a week ago. So that's the tricky part. Absolutely. I think it'll be a big run day. I think it'll be Saquon probably be fine. He'll get his. The receivers, though, that's a good point, Josh. That could be interesting.
Here's the problem with Saquon, though. Unless you're in a PPR league, you might lose value because Hurts keeps vulturing him on those rushing touchdowns.
Yep. He had 3 last week.
He did.
Yes, that's why I forgot. That's why I have him in one league. That's why I was like, oh, Jalen, yes. I have 1,000 fantasy points. Thank you. That was great. I forgot about that. That was tremendous. Yeah, you're right. He could vulture him a little bit, but at the same point, I think at least at first you'll get him the touches. If they're up by too much, though, yeah, you're gonna spell him and you're gonna get some Gainwell, Shipley, and it's not gonna do anybody any good. But for the Eagles right now, I think it's just a case of you have to keep the good vibes going. You've had so many ifs. You had the ownership or whoever come out and just kind of show behind the scenes with Nick Sirianni. Look how he motivates the players. Look how, you're trying to make it good after the weird stuff that happened against Cleveland where he's yelling at the fans and has his kid up at the podium. So this is, I think also, Josh, is meant for the players. The players now feel the organization behind Sirianni. You're 5-2. You're growing. You have to keep track with Washington, but Dallas is sort of falling away. So you got to put the boots to the Jags and show we're the team in the NFC to beat. Not the 49ers who are struggling. This NFC is still completely wide open.
We're talking with Andy McNamara. Of course, he is the host of the Sick Podcast, joining us here on 97.3 ESPN. Like, subscribe, wherever you get your podcasts. Watch it on YouTube. Every Sunday morning is the Sunday shows. Andy, before we get to the Browns, I have some things to say about them. But
oh boy,
you mentioned about the video they put out. I think that video was just for the fans because the players have been saying for weeks they love Sirianni, they believe in Sirianni, they're bought into him. Lane Johnson was saying today to the media that Sirianni listens to us and we like that and we appreciate the fact that Lane used the term it doesn't go in one ear and out the other. And you know how that works, Andy. When someone says something, that means they've had a coach who did that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
So,
on the opposite sideline, perhaps, on Sunday.
Well, Doug was a player's coach. Doug.
Yeah.
See, I hate having to rehash this again, but Doug's not here because Doug was so hyperly loyal to his coaches that
that's right.
When the organization told him, you got to let Press Taylor go, he wouldn't let him go, and they said, well, then you're going. Basically. And by the way, that's the same problem they had in Jacksonville. He let Press Taylor be the OC in Jacksonville the last couple of years. It's fallen apart. He had to take back play calling responsibilities. That's when the Jags finally won a game in London. So, Doug...
Get rid of Press Taylor, damn it. That's the answer.
But he's loyal to a fault. He's a good country loyal boy from Louisiana or wherever he's from, and he's just not a guy who's gonna just throw the baby out not throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of guy. No matter how many times we tell him the bathwater's dirty,
it's dirty bathwater. Whoever's in it goes out the window. Come on, don't care who's in it.
But the point is that Lane, and he's saying, hey, look, Sirianni listens to us. The players are saying we love Sirianni. We want Sirianni to be a little nuts, okay? I think that video was for the fans. I think that was for the uneducated, the uninitiated, the people who are not listening to 97.3 ESPN FM, the people who are not listening to the Sick Podcast, people who are not tuned into as those of us who are to say, okay, final call for the idiots. Sirianni is doing his job.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, we've seen a turnaround. And what do you want to see? Because not every season, of course, is going to go perfect. So what you want to see is if things go bad, can you turn it around, and who does that? I think Sirianni deserves a lot of credit for that, because this season could have easily gone south. Look at the Cowboys season so far, right? Like, this is a team that Uncle Jerry expected big things from, and they're not getting it. Credit to him, credit to the players. And how about everybody who wanted to throw Jalen Hurts out? Not looking too bad now, is he? I'm not saying he's back in the 2022 Super Bowl form yet, but this is a case, again, of a quarterback goes a little up and down. Can you get back up? It's not all going to be Patrick Mahomes and everything works every week. Can you recover? And this team is, and you're doing it now, and it's the start of November. And Josh, dare I say, if they continue with this way and continue to believe and grow this becomes, again, a legitimate NFC championship contender who at this point looks like you'd probably be battling with the Lions. Packers are hanging in there, right? Like those teams, you're right in that conversation. You have to keep that going.
And by the way, you already beat the Packers already this year, so you hold that tiebreaker.
Yeah, sure.
By the way, Jordan Love, questionable for Sunday.
Groin injury. Football to the groin injury, Josh. Yep, that's
Listen,
not good.
I understand Jordan Love wants to play. If I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm telling him, look, dude, Malik Willis is adequate. Okay, we can play with him.
You've won a game with him.
You've won multiple games with him. Didn't you win like 2 out of 3 with him? Or
I think they did. Not because of Malik Willis, but I think Malik Willis is a horrendous quarterback, and the fact that he won 2 games bothers me. I don't know why. I got it out for him.
But see, this is what you're overthinking it. Okay, it's not Willis.
Yes,
it's the coach.
It's everybody else. It's the play call. It's putting the quarterback, knowing the limitations, and putting him in spots to succeed. That's it. That's the simple formula, and that's why what we're seeing with Sam Darnold, even though the Vikings have lost a couple close games. What you're seeing is you're taking the strengths. It's the old, for the wrestling fans out there and in the Philly area, knowing this name, Paul Heyman, with the old ECW. He took wrestlers who WWE didn't want because they had flaws, too high, too short, too fat, whatever. But Heyman found the strengths, accentuated those, and made them stars. And that's what the good football coaches do. You figure out what they do well, hide the weaknesses as much as possible, and then you succeed, and the confidence builds around everybody. And that's what we're seeing out of those teams.
By the way, it was 2-0. He's 2-0 as a starter with the Packers as Willis. He was 12 for 14 against the Colts, and he was 13 for 19 against the Titans. So, listen, LaFleur, he should be candidate for Coach of the Year as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the fact that he has that Packers team just hanging around and just, they're 6-2. They're right there in the conversation. He deserves a ton of credit. And I think that if I'm the Packers, I tell Jordan Love, I take him aside this weekend, and I tell him, look, I know Willis is questionable. I know it's the Lions, but we got a bye week coming up after this. Why don't you just take this game off? Who cares what happens in the Lions game? We hit the bye week, you come back healthy, and then we got to run. Now we can hit the ground running after the bye week instead of hitting the ground limping.
Yes. And we know those, like the groin injury is one of those, not the same as of a high ankle, of course, but one of those ones that can linger like a hammy, right? Yep. If it's not right and you keep trying to play through it, then you're never fully right. So you might as well, I'm totally with you. Play the long game here. You don't want, because if something gets tweaked again, it comes worse or forbid a tear, you're done. It's over.
Exactly.
So you might as well try to play it safe. See if you can eke one out on the lines. Like you said, if not, okay, you're still 6-3. You're very much in the conversation. And you can still go for that wild card spot and see what happens. But you're better off doing it that way than pushing the envelope too much and going with it. You have Josh Jacobs listed as questionable as well. So you're going to have to get a little creative if you're the Green Bay Packers this week.
All right, Andy, you are host of the Sick Podcast. You talk fantasy football and Cleveland Browns every single week on your podcast. Like, subscribe, share wherever you get your podcasts. Andy, talk to me about the Browns because I don't know what to do with this game. Like, I keep looking at this game and I keep overthinking it because my heart says, oh, this is such an under game. Like, the Chargers, they've hit the under 4 the last 5 games. The Browns defense, they're looking a little better last couple weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then Jameis happened. And there's a part of me that wonders, I'm looking at that line, right? I'm looking at that spread right now. Here, why are the Browns 1.5 point dogs in this game at home? Like, to me, they should be the customary 2-3 point favorite. What am I missing here, Andy?
Well, and we got the over-under set at 41.5. I'm with you. As far as betting just on this game, I kind of want to avoid it, to be honest, Josh. I don't really want to be, because I'm with you. It's a confusing line. Not that the Chargers aren't good, because look at what a great coaching job Jim Harbaugh has done. Full credit. They're playing really AFC North football on the West Coast. Smash mouth.
No. They're playing Big Ten football in the NFL.
Yeah. That's true. That's more accurate. Yeah. They are running the ball, being physical, not asking the quarterback to do too much, as Justin Herbert keeps recovering from that high ankle sprain that has hampered him all through the offseason. So this is a smash mouth team. Well, the Browns now with Nick Chubb, and finally with Deshaun Watson out of the picture, you can go back to playing Kevin Stefanski football that won him 2 coaches of the year, even though Ken Dorsey's calling the plays. It's the Stefanski offense. It was almost identical.
Right.
Which is also smash mouth football with play action. You got Nick Chubb, a 3rd game back, looking better each time out. And I saw him in person 2 weeks ago, and he was popping. And each week he's getting a little bit better. So I think this could be a lot on the ground. J.K. Dobbins, anytime touchdown, is just screaming at me to take that. I think he'll go off. And I think it's going to be a lot of running and really the team that makes the fewest mistakes. Harbaugh is not putting Herbert in positions to turn the ball over. With Winston, there probably should have been about 4 interceptions in that Ravens game. But the Browns should have had a couple interceptions as well. That's why I'm in the NFL. It's all the time. So can we expect another non-interception game from Jameis Winston against the NFL's leading scoring defense? That might be a big ask. But all I know is this, Josh. I had fun watching football for the first time this year with the Browns, with Jameis Winston. It was fun. There wasn't the dark cloud of Deshaun Watson hanging over. There wasn't the feeling of, as a fan, of, oh boy, okay, I have to say this is my quarterback. There was, and you could feel it from the players. A cloud was lifted. The sun came out. Jameis had fun. And all of a sudden, Josh, it's funny. All of a sudden, the receivers are catching footballs. The offensive line isn't committing as many mistakes, and it's working because Deshaun Watson and that dark cloud, that poison, is gone. And as long as there's that, the Browns have a chance. Heck, they did it last year with Flacco, with pretty much the same looking team. So who the heck knows? Go on a run, baby.
By the way, speaking of Flacco, I mean,
oh boy, interesting decision. That's a Jim Irsay move. Bottom line, we know that.
Oh, you think that came from the owner?
Oh, yeah. Are you telling me that you have your high draft pick, Anthony Richardson? You're benching him for 39-year-old Joe Flacco, who I adore because of last year in Cleveland. But Joe Flacco's not the future. Okay, let's say for fun, the Colts managed to finagle their way in that awful division and win on a tiebreaker and get in at 9-8, because that's probably what it would be. All right, well, you're getting bounced quickly. Miracle, you win one. You're not going deep. You also have not developed your young quarterback, and you got too good of a record to get one of the quarterbacks in this draft class, whether you like them or not. So what do? Have you squashed Anthony Richardson's confidence? Do you sit him? And it sounds too, it's not like have a seat for a couple games. Like, no, we're going Flacco. So what does that mean for Anthony Richardson, who, Josh, we knew coming out of the draft, this was one of the rawest guys, arm talent-wise, all the physical tools, but very raw. So you either got to let him play through it or you sit him. And now they're sitting him, but it doesn't look like they're doing it the right way.
So that leads me then to this question for you, okay? You know, it kind of goes back to the whole, they shouldn't have started the guy in the first place. He should have sat for a couple of years, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, you saw the Texans lose last night to the Jets. And pretty emphatically lose to the Jets.
Yeah, that
last
second
night.
half. Jeez Louise, yeah.
I mean, Garrett Wilson, I'm pretty glad I have him on my fantasy team. But anyway,
I got one of mine too. Woo! I woke up. I'm like, all right, Garrett, let's go.
By the way, I've been hanging on to Aaron Rodgers for weeks. I started him last night.
Oh, you got him in.
Boom, boom, boom. It's just like finally.
Nice.
It's like the Rock. It's like finally, Aaron Rodgers has returned.
What about the Texans? Their record says one thing, but my eyes are just telling me like this team seems very average right now in a bad division. So they probably will still win it.
What confuses me, Andy, what confused me is this. You signed all those guys in the offseason, right? You signed Danielle Hunter. You brought in all those defensive upgrades. You brought in Joe Mixon. And you would have thought that would have helped, but we're finding
Stephon
out,
Diggs.
Andy. Well, he's injured now. So.
Yeah, but a guy you brought in, I mean.
But I meant like I'm watching the game last night with the guys who were on the field who you brought in. And I'm like, all I kept seeing was he didn't fix the offensive line.
Yeah, very true. And while CJ Stroud still isn't turning the ball over in a concerning rate at all, the offense, just seems very, very average, very bland. Those were moves made to try to make a championship push. Rookie contract, they saw something they liked last year like we all did. Window open, go for it. But you're right. They left that offensive line. I'm sure that'll be a big look at this offseason, but it seems like a wasted opportunity this year.
Andy McNamara at AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform, the Sick Podcast. Tell the folks what you got going on this Sunday.
Yes, sir. Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, live on YouTube, the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on X as well, at SickPod Browns, at AndyMC81, Instagram, at AndyMC Sports. So we'll have your fantasy football start sits. We were just talking about all the injuries, right? So we're going to have to monitor that right up in the morning. What adjustments do we have to make on the fly? So you get your questions in using hashtag AskAndy on any of those platforms. Get the questions in. We make our parlay party bets. I did a 15-legger last week. Didn't win, but it was a lot of fun to make. We'll see. Could have won 40,000. Didn't come close. It's all right. So we'll make some bets. We'll talk fantasy football, and we'll tee up Browns Chargers, which is going to be a very interesting game.
Such a great attitude. Hey, we didn't win, but it was fun.
Hey, not even close. Hey, you put $2 on a 15-legger. You just got to be right once.
What did Jameis say? You only get one shot, that white boy in Detroit?
Yeah, in Detroit. I like to, my favorite part real quick was at the start of the game because everyone was down. It's like, I'd gone the week before. The whole fan base is like, I'm looking at on my show. I was looking at rookie quarterbacks. I'm like, okay, I had a draft guy on. And Jameis is like, his thing at the start of the game is like, oh, we just trust in God. That's all we got. I was like, that's probably the truest thing anyone's ever said. Just trust in God, see what happens. And it worked out. So now he's player of the week, and we're feeling good, and we'll see what goes down this Sunday.
If nothing else, whoever has a T-shirt company just need to start pumping out Jameis Winston T-shirts.
Oh yeah, there's enough of those Cleveland ones. Yeah.
If you like, trust in God, Browns win, Jameis Winston. Like
yes, have the dub, eat the dub. I think there's a missed opportunity of food product, Josh. How about a pretzel? You get a Winston W pretzel. You tie it up, you got the W pretzel. I think that would be fun and delicious.
Yeah, and then you can make a shirt with him. The guy says weird stuff all the time.
What was the move? How can you say you shoot for the stars or shoot for the sky when people have been on the moon or something? The guy, this guy is he's entertainment.
I don't know when it was Wednesday or Thursday. He said something at that press conference, and I almost fell over. Like I didn't realize. I don't understand what he said. I think he was trying to say that, hey, we're here. I think he was trying to say that we're working hard to get to Sunday, to repeat what we did last week. But instead he said something like, we put in work for Sunday like last Sunday or something like that. I was like, wait, what?
Wait, what? And did you see the video at the start of the game, like the pre-hype video where he's like, we do this for the name on the back of your jerseys and the name on your helmet. Oh, wait, we don't have a decal. Oh, the name's on the back of your jersey. I'm like, this is, that's the genius because all of a sudden, John, that breaks everybody's up for the tension. It's like that Joe Montana, John Candy in the crowd thing. It breaks the tension and they go out and play loose and they're having fun. And it's fun for the fans. It's fun for the players. So I don't know if Jameis Winston's going to throw 4 touchdowns or 4 interceptions on Sunday, but no matter what, it's going to be entertaining.
Exactly. Andy McNamara, appreciate you jumping on as always. The Sick Podcast on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts at AndyMC81 on the Twitter X platform. Take care, my friend.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later. See ya.
We'll check out the text board coming up next, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank. To see how your picks for the Eagles games and my Football Friday picks all coming up next on 97.3 ESPN.
This is South Jersey's official home for Philadelphia Eagles football. The Eagles host the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 9 of the 2024 season, Sunday afternoon.
And he's brought down for a loss by Gina. What a play by the rookie.
Listen to all the action with Merrill Reese and Mike Quick, with pregame coverage starting at 3 p.m. and kickoff at 4 p.m. This is the play-by-play home of the Philadelphia Eagles, 97.3 ESPN, South Jersey's Eagles station.
Step into the heart of Tuckerton at Doyle's Poorhouse, where great food meets a family-friendly atmosphere. Craving a hearty meal or a place to unwind with friends? Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton has it all. Mouth-watering dishes, crafted with care, and the best events in town. Live music nights and community gatherings. There's always something happening at Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton. Visit them today and experience the warmth of their hospitality. Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton, where every visit feels like coming home. Visit Doyle's Poorhouse of Tuckerton, your new favorite spot for food, fun, and family.
All right, gentlemen, this is Emmett Smith on behalf of Depend, and I've got the perfect play. Run straight to your doctor's office for a life-changing kit. Because when prostate cancer is caught early, it's up to 99% treatable, and one blood test might be all it takes. And now through November, Depend is donating to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for select purchases. Talk about a great play.
From September 1st to November 30th, Depend is donating 40 cents to the Prostate Cancer Foundation for Depend Shield Guards, Real Fit products purchased in the U.S. up to a maximum of $300,000 void in Mississippi.
When you experience, pick up the phone.
Hey South Jersey homeowners, autumn is here and fall season means fence season. Are you dreaming of a new fence or railing but you don't want to break the bank? Our pro tip of the day, install in the fall for big savings. As your exclusive Active Yards dealer, you can choose from our inventory of privacy, decorative, security, and pool fence solutions by Active Yards. No matter what your needs are, we have a high-quality, maintenance-free Active Yard solution that is right for you. Don't miss our Install in the Fall savings coupled with our no-money-down, interest-free financing so together we can make your dream a reality. So give us a call today or go online to DennisvilleFence.com to request a free estimate and be sure to mention that you want to install in the fall.
Go with experience, go for the best. Pick up the phone and call Dennisville Fence. 1-800-499-FENCE. Visit DennisvilleFence.com.
Order for Jennifer C.
Is this my double shot, double cream, double froth, double pump, double hot, double whip, double sleeve?
Yeah. Can you handle that much caffeine?
Hey, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Well, I do now.
Seriously, did you know Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, you just said that.
Did you say I just said that?
Yeah, I'm cutting you off.
Did you say you're cutting me off?
You earn, we match. Unlimited cashback match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Hey, if you have ugly yellow toe fungus, you got to hear about the secret 2-minute trick that I found for my husband. It works from both the inside and the outside. Thousands of people are using it to get rid of their toe fungus. You can check it out at crystalflush.com. Jake started off with a small spot on his big toe and then it spread and got really bad. His toes were nasty. It was so embarrassing. He was afraid to take his socks off. He hid his yellow and crumbly toes from everyone. He tried everything to get rid of it. Nothing helped. And then we found crystalflush.com. It was the only thing that worked. In just a few weeks, his toes looked amazing. He's now walking around barefoot again. You guys need to try this. I'm telling you, this stuff is different. It's not sold in stores, but go check it out at crystalflush.com. They'll even let you try it risk-free so you have nothing to lose. But whatever you do, don't let it get worse. You don't have to live with this anymore. Go check it out now. Just click over to crystalflush.com.
Paul's new drone startup just lost its most genius computer scientist.
We just lost our best genius to some new genius who's got a genius new idea. I'm going to have to find a new genius or two half geniuses and fast.
He needs a computer scientist that can keep his startup from falling down.
I need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, it's easier for talented candidates to find it, which makes it easier for you to hire them. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-488-2594. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 five-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-488-2594. That's 800-488-2594. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in New Jersey.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
All right, before we get out of here, so I mentioned earlier in the show, Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios. My first key is the Eagles got to finish them. They got to pull away in the game. They got to finish them. They got to put their foot pedal to the metal. Key number 2 for the game on Sunday is, like Lane Johnson was saying, run the ball. Okay, you got to limit the opportunities, because for as much as the Jags have struggled this year, they still have a team with a talented quarterback, and you never want to give a quarterback a chance to beat you. So, 1, put your foot pedal to the metal, finish them. Number 2, you got to beat them by keeping the ball away from them. Those are my 2 keys for the game. I got the Eagles winning the game, and I don't think it's going to be close. That's why I am picking the Jags and Eagles, okay? I am picking the Eagles in my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
Oh, the week.
Eagles are currently 7.5 points spread. I think this is at least 10 or more points the Eagles win by. I think the Eagles are going to manhandle a team that is allowing 28 points a game. They're going to score a lot of points. I think this is probably something like a 35-14 kind of game. So, yes, I have the Eagles covering the 7.5 for my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
Oh, the week.
Some other picks for you guys here on 97.3 ESPN here on a Football Friday edition of the show. Of course, thanks to Boxing Insider Promotions for bringing you me here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget, Saturday, November 16th. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com with not 1, not 2, but 3 undefeated South Jersey fighters in action on Saturday, November 16th at the Tropicana Atlantic City showroom. Tickets available at Ticketmaster.com. Here's the full slate of NFL I got for you guys. Bucks team total. I know this is a Monday night game, but Bucks team total under 17.5 at Kansas City. The Bucks offense is just not the same. No Godwin, no Evans. They are injured, infinitely injured right now. So, and Kansas City arguably one of the best defenses in all of football. Sal Palantonio said to Mike Gill earlier on the Sports Bash, he said it very distinctly. He said, you know why the Chiefs can overcome Mahomes and all the interceptions? Because they have a defense that is always on point. They will be on point against the Bucks in that game. Also in the NFL, I like the Bears and Cardinals over 44.5. I think this would be a high-scoring game. Caleb Williams, Kyler Murray, shootout. Not very good defense for the Cardinals. I think the Bears defense, I think they played well this year. But remember, it's a math problem. In order to get over 44.5, you must have a 28-20 score. I'm not saying it's going to be 35-30. I'm just saying it's going to be 28-20 kind of game. You also heard me hint at this with Andy McNamara just a few minutes ago. Give me Browns money line at home. I'm not even going to deal with the numbers. The numbers are lying to me. That's all I know. Browns money line minus 102. Cleveland to win outright at home. In college football, I also like Ole Miss at Arkansas under 54.5. Ole Miss is a very good defense. Arkansas, underrated defense. I don't foresee a ton of points in that game.
Let's get it. Another one. Another one. Another one.
I think Georgia crushes Florida in their rivalry game. Give me the 14.5. I'm Josh Hennig. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll catch you Monday.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, producer Nick Earnshaw, and the intern Andrew Leeds. Join me in the studio. The Birds take on the Jags, and we will hear from
All right, folks, so this is the YouTube-only part of the stream. You only get this on my YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig, a full explanation of the sheet in front of me, all the picks, all the explanations right here, right now on my YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, share it with your friends. All right. Just give me 1 sec because I got to make sure the radio station keeps running. Okay. I gotta keep my my job going here. As I just messed something up over here. Give me 1 sec here, folks. Give me 1 sec. I know I'm killing you with the suspense. I know somebody somewhere is probably gonna text me and be like, "Stop, Josh, stop messing around with stuff." Well, I gotta mess around with it. All right. So let me mess. Let me make a mess here. All right. All right. Fixed it. All right. Full sheet rundown. Let's go for a Football Friday. All right, let's get the page back up with all the sound bites, all the drops and everything. So I gave you just a few minutes ago my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Oh, the week.
Eagles are averaging 28 points per game since their bye week. Jags on the season allowing 28 points per game. Eagles will score 30 or more points in this game. They will cover the 7.5 spread, and that is my
Stone Cold Lock of the Century. Oh, the week.
I also, guys, gave you again Bucks team total under 17.5. Chiefs, very good defense. Bucks struggling offense, and this game is in Kansas City. So we like that pick. I also, as I mentioned, Bears, Cardinals over 44.5. I don't think this will be a low-scoring game at all. I think Murray and Williams will both have good days. And then, as my NFL pick for
Let's get nuts.
the Michael Keaton Batman pick of the weekend is Browns money line at home. I can't deny it. I can't deny the fact that I feel something about this Browns team. The numbers don't add up. And when there's numbers that don't add up, I tend to run the other direction. So give me Browns minus 102 money line.
Come on, let's get nuts.
My final NFL pick for the weekend, I like the Patriots. I can't believe I'm saying this. Patriots on the road plus 3.5 at the Tennessee Titans. Look, I got to be honest with you guys. I always tell you if I'm wrong about something as much as I tell you I'm right. I was so wrong, infinitely wrong, about the Tennessee Titans this year. I thought the Titans were going to be a borderline playoff team. They have been an absolute abomination. They have been absolute trash. They have been horrible. And I got to be honest with you guys. I don't understand what's going on down there. but I like Drake May better than I like the Titans tonight. So give me the Patriots plus 3.5 on the road at Tennessee. All right. So in the NFL, we are 74-47, and we're on the year at 61.1%. So those are the NFL picks for the weekend. College football. I mentioned I got Ole Miss at Arkansas under 54.5. I look at Arkansas, and I see a team that they are not a great team. They're not, but I know what they are. They're a good enough team. And I think that's really what the key is here, okay? I think the key here is the fact that you have a football team that they're good enough, okay? They're good enough to win games, but they're not good enough to dominate anyone. So at least for me, I look at this game and I just say, look, I think that the Ole Miss defense is right now better than their offense. And I think one of the only things Arkansas is going for them is their defense. And just a quick aside. I know Sam Pittman, the head coach of Arkansas, is beloved down there in Razorback country. But I got to be honest with you guys. He's got to get this recruiting thing figured out. They have a really difficult situation on their hands because they had some legitimate players in that program playing for them. And all of a sudden, it's not looking so good. They're losing recruits. They're losing the recruiting battle. They're losing the NIL battle. Something's got to change fast, or Sam Pittman's going to lose that program. And I hate to see it because I think he's a really good coach. He's a really good man. But right now, recruiting-wise, they're having trouble down there in Arkansas. And on the flip side, Lane Kiffin did an amazing job at building a defense, and he's an offensive-minded coach. When an offensive-minded coach can get defensive players to come to his program, that shows you how good of a recruiter he is. I like the Syracuse Orangemen to cover the plus 3.5 versus Virginia Tech. I think last week's Kyle McCord game was an aberration. He had a horrible game last week. It was a rough day at the office. I think he rebounds. I think the Syracuse at home against Virginia Tech, that's a cover. I really do. I think Syracuse finds their way back home, and I think that at home they will win that game. If you want to take the money line, I wouldn't be against it, but right now I'm just going with the plus 3.5 at home against Virginia Tech. I got another.
Come on, let's get nuts.
I mentioned this on 97.3 ESPN FM. Minus 14.5 for Georgia. I know it's a big number. I know it's a rivalry game. Florida is not a good football team. They are poor. They are miserable this year. I think Georgia wants to prove to the nation that they belong in the college football playoff. And one way to do that is style points. Because remember, these are human beings making these decisions on the playoff pool. These are not computers. These are not analytics. These are human beings. And for a Georgia team that is trying to solidify their standing, one way to do that is on what is supposed to be a neutral field, which, as we know, is not really because it's Jacksonville and it's much closer to Gainesville than it is to Athens, Georgia. But Georgia's going to want to prove that they are one of the best teams in college football by crushing their rival. So give me Georgia to cover 14.5 for another.
Now you want to get nuts. Come on, let's get nuts.
Couple more picks for you here on a Football Friday. Thanks again to Boxing Insider Promotions for sponsoring me on 97.3 ESPN.
Let's get it. Another one. Another one. Another one.
All right, got a couple more picks for you before I let you guys go. UCLA at Nebraska. I don't know why Nebraska is only a 7-point favorite in this game. I feel like the odds makers looked at the LSU game as a literal game instead of looking at it as a game on UCLA's schedule. I think that everyone overreacted in recent weeks to the UCLA LSU game. And listen, I'm very familiar with that game because I was wrong about that game. Okay? I didn't think UCLA was going to go on the road to Death Valley at LSU and score 34 points. But people forget, UCLA is 2-5 on the year. They've been smashed by Indiana. They got smashed by LSU. Yeah, they played better than we thought they were, but they still got crushed. They got crushed by Oregon. They got beat down by Penn State. This is not a good football team. Yeah, they won last week against Rutgers, but it's Rutgers. Rutgers and Nebraska, in terms of talent, are not even on the same conversation. Nebraska just lost a close game on the road at Ohio State. And I feel like people are holding the Indiana loss against them too harshly. There were turnovers in that game. That was a true road game, the first one for Dominic Raiola, the quarterback for Nebraska. This game is at home. UCLA, they have won on the road at Rutgers. And that's it. That's pretty much it. They lost at Penn State. They lost at LSU. What do you want me to do? I don't like it. I think it's a bad number. Finally, Texas A&M on the road at South Carolina. Under 23.5 team total. I don't understand why South Carolina is being disrespected. South Carolina's head coach Shane Beamer has done an amazing job this year at rallying his men to play above their skis every single game. They are playing above and beyond what they are typically capable of. And this is a night game. So you're going to have, the crowd is going to be insane. Texas A&M is on the road. And this is a South Carolina team. They made Alabama struggle for that win. They made LSU struggle for a win. Did South Carolina. They beat Kentucky in dominant fashion in Lexington, Kentucky. And they went to Oklahoma and dominated them. We gave you those picks. I gave you the Oklahoma cover. I gave you the Alabama cover. I gave you the LSU cover. And I did it because there's something about what Shane Beamer is building in South Carolina. He has those young men buying in. And now you have a Texas A&M team coming into South Carolina with a new quarterback. I'm not saying Texas A&M is going to lose the game. But South Carolina finds ways to play everybody tough. And right now, with the quarterback controversy going on with Texas A&M, and you're giving Shane Beamer and his coaching staff an entire week to prepare for this game, if Texas A&M scores more than 23 points tomorrow, I will be shocked. So yes, Texas A&M team total under 23.5. I think this is probably going to be a Texas A&M like a 20-14 kind of game, maybe like a 23-20, 20-17, 21-14. It's not going to be a crazy game. I think that South Carolina is going to make them fight tooth and nail for this. Texas A&M is trying to stay undefeated in conference play. But their quarterback situation is a huge, huge question. And there's some studs on defense for South Carolina. Okay? Emawari, he is a prospect. Kennard is a prospect. These are studs on defense for South Carolina. They got some great defensive players. And whether it's Reed or Wegman who play quarterback, the reality is that no matter who it is, South Carolina has gotten 16 turnovers this season. It is the third most in the SEC and 12th most in all of college football. That is 12th most out of 132 schools. This is a legit defense. I was texting with a buddy of mine last couple weekends, and I kept checking with him. I said, talk to me. Are these guys prospects? Kilgore, Kennard. Yes. Emawari. Yes, when you have multiple NFL prospects on your defense and you have an offense that is struggling this year for Texas A&M, a very, very inconsistent offense. And remember, it's a team that struggled to score against Notre Dame earlier this year. You saw Notre Dame just did the Navy last weekend. I got that game wrong, by the way. Notre Dame's defense is legit. The only teams that they have scored points are McNeese State, not a good team. Florida, not a good team. They struggled to score against Arkansas. They scored on Missouri, not a good defense. They scored on Mississippi State, not a good defense. They scored on LSU. That was out of necessity because they brought in the backup quarterback. He saved their season. So, yeah, team total, under 23.5. Thank you for watching my Football Friday picks. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. I appreciate everybody who tunes in to Football Fridays right here on my YouTube channel. And, of course, game night every Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on 97.3 ESPN. Follow me at Josh Hennig on the Twitter X platform. I'll be popping on there throughout the weekend for college football and NFL conversation. I have no watch party this Sunday, so I will be out and about probably mingling with the people this weekend for sports. I actually don't know where I'm going yet. I don't know what I'm doing on Sunday yet. All I know is I don't have to work Saturday morning or Sunday morning, so I am getting some extra sleep, and it's much needed. So thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend, and I'll catch you later right here on my YouTube channel at Josh Hennig on YouTube and on 97.3 ESPN FM. Take care, everyone.